Yeah, I think that the Trudeau government is far to the left of where people originally assumed it would be. I mean, I think that his decision to put 50% women in the cabinet was an abdication of responsibility of a magnitude that we haven't seen before in Canadian political history. Only 26% of the MPs elected were female. And that should have been approximately the proportion of cabinet members. But to say this is 2015 or whatever the hell the year was, and then to abdicate his responsibility for selecting the most competent people was an indication of exactly how, what would you say, how suited he is to be prime minister. And people just didn't make much of an issue of that because of their attempts to be tolerant. But I think that what he did was, I thought the fact that he ran to begin with was reprehensible because he ran entirely on the name brand recognition that he had derived from his father.
Yes.
And I think that that's the mark of someone who's narcissistic.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have done that. Or
it worked, though. A lot of immigrants voted for him. My dad voted for him.
He's very charismatic and attractive, and he knows how to behave in public. And he had a very, very famous name. But I believe that it was immoral of him to run because we're not dynasties. Democracies aren't dynasties. And he hadn't the CV, the record of success that you would need as an independent individual to justify himself as a qualified candidate for prime minister. So I thought that his candidacy right from the start was ethically flawed. But then to multiply that error with these shallow attempts at broadcasting tolerance, especially at the expense of competence and the capacity to truly evaluate, is just inexcusable. Look, our prime minister is a great example of that. So back, I think it was in 2015, he announced that half of his cabinet was going to be women because it was 2015 or some like muddle-headed virtue signaling excuse for not thinking. I think only 20% or 25% of the elected MPs were female. So the proper balance on average would have been 25% female, 75% male. What he should have done was figured out what qualities would make for a competent cabinet minister, because it's actually quite important to have competent cabinet ministers, and then selected from among his people for nothing other than competence. But he could virtue signal, and then he set up the most important board, let's say, of the entire country on a quasi-random basis. Jesus, how pathetic. He should have been pilloried by Canadians for that. But we're so clued out, and also in the situation that you described, is like, if I say, well, 50% of Trudeau's cabinet shouldn't have been women, it's like, oh, you're a misogynist. It's like, no, only 25% of the elected officials were women. Now, you might say, well, it would be better if 50% of them were elected. It's like, maybe it would be better, but it didn't happen. So you can't fix it at the top end. It was appalling. So it's a hard argument to make, because you need to know that there's more difference within groups than between them in order to be able to come up with a credible argument, And then, so.
We will make America great again.